WallBreaker Viktor has to be one of the most infuriating things to play against and sometimes even with. Whether he's running down your lanes going 0-10 or even running down your lanes again and going 20-0 destroying your shrines and you can do nothing about it. And let's be honest, we're all sick and tired of it. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about why exactly is it so strong, how do we counter this character and stop him from snowballing, and much more. My name's Duck Films, and Eternus ranked player, and if you like Deadlock content and or Marvel Rivals content, definitely check out the channel. And of course, let's get right into it. Firstly, let's talk about the why. Why this character? Why is he so strong? Why are you doing this purpose? The first thing is Viktor and his nail gun in general. Viktor inherently possesses some of the highest gun DPS and scaling in the entire game. I believe he's ranked 3rd. Basically, once that man starts going, you can't stop him even from building a roof by how fast he's shooting that nail gun. And by fast, how he destroys objectives like guardians, walkers, and of course shrines. The second issue with this character is the extreme survivability. His kit provides damage mitigation and incredible sustain, allowing him to absorb massive amounts of punishment while ignoring enemy fire to focus on buildings. Then you have to consider the 2-life factor. His ultimate provides a built-in self-revive. Even if the enemy team collapses to defend the walker, they have to kill him twice, burning invaluable time and resources. Picture this, you are Viktor pushing down the walker. You have 4 of the enemies trying to stop you so you don't get the walker, while the rest of your team is either getting the other walkers, getting an urn, getting mid-boss, or doing something else around the map. This is just how frustrating it is to play against this character, because not only do you have to deal with Viktor, and that being 2 times, but you also have to deal with the rest of his team who are using that time to basically do everything for free. Now, one of the biggest issues that stems from WallBreaker Viktor is the idea behind the shrine push. When pushing for a shrine, typically it's after, you do mid-boss and then you push it with the rest of your team after you get the walkers and so on. But with the WallBreaker Viktor, all you do is you push the lane, you get the walker, then you push your own minion wave up to the enemy's base guardians, you use the warp stone to TP past the base guardians, and then you just go for the shrine. But why are we doing this? Now, when you get rid of one of the shrines, basically this is getting rid of the super minions or the super wave. This basically yields 15% less souls when killed for the enemy team. So they're getting 15% less of their income, or 25, they keep tweaking the numbers, but I'm just gonna go for 15 because that's what it says on the Deadlock wiki, although the wiki's never the best place. But you get the idea, you just get less souls, whether it's 25 or 15. Now basically this is just making it a whole lot harder for the enemy team to gather souls and a whole lot easier for your own team to get souls. So it's a win for yourself because you're getting more souls, but it's also another win because the enemies are getting less souls, so they can't buy items and so on. You get the snowball effect. And why it's so strong is because the Viktor, or WallBreaker Viktor, is getting all of the souls from the walker, the shrines, all to himself, the solo player on that team, because he's getting solo walker and solo shrines. This is giving him a massive soul advantage. Even if he's, say, 0-6, 0-8, and so on, a Viktor that is fed is pretty dominant and can take a lot to try to stop, whether it's your entire team buying curses and whatnot. The fact that is, he is so strong with all of these souls and items that even if you're able to shut him down, he's at least taking 1 or 2 of your teammates with you, and then you have to deal with the rest of his team, but you guys already burned a ton of your cooldowns, whether it's curses or your ultimates, to try to take out one singular player on the enemy team. That's why it can be so frustrating to deal with, and that's why you have to shut him down rather early. And that's generally the playstyle of the WallBreaker Viktor. You push the wave, you do the jungle camp, you push the wave again, and you just keep repeating this process until you get the shrine. And like I said, if you enjoyed this video so far or you're finding anything helpful to yourself, definitely consider hitting that like button. It's one of the best ways of helping me out. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about WallBreaker Viktor. But anyways, how do we counter WallBreaker Viktor, or just Viktor in general? And I will elaborate a little bit further on about some of the issues that are coming from this playstyle and how to actually shut it down from a game perspective. But back to the topic, with WallBreaker Viktor, the biggest thing to keep in mind is that he builds gun, and his gun hurts, again being the 3rd strongest gun by base damage. The best way to shut him down in lane, because once he gets opening rounds or even intensifying magazine, he will shred you in lane extremely quickly. Your best friend is Rusted Barrel. getting Rusted Barrel as much as possible, whether it's 2 people in the same lane buying it or whoever it may be, Rusted Barrel into a Disarming Hex is one of your biggest friends. And you might be wondering why this item. Well, if you've been sleeping on a rock, he's a gun character, and if he's building a gun, chances are you need a Disarming Hex. That makes him not shoot. So that's one reason. The other reason is his jumpstart ability. Typically, WallBreaker Viktor, the build is to max ultimate. You're not really putting points into your jumpstart, which is essentially your plus 50% debuff resistance, which is a big thing if you're playing Spirit Viktor. But if you're playing a WallBreaker Viktor, you're not putting points into jumpstart, meaning you're not getting that debuff resistance. So if you have Disarming Hex, it's going to be a big nightmare for this character. And another thing is that if you are spamming Disarming Hexes or curses, whatever the case may be, he has to buy Dispel Magic. And with that, you have options to counter him, and he's going to be doing less damage because he has that extra green. But besides Rusted Barrel Disarming Hex, your other biggest friend is Curse, because Curse not only stops some of his abilities, his 1, 2, and 3, but it also makes him not shoot. However, his ultimate will still go off, so that is something you kind of have to keep in mind. Now, the next and probably biggest way to shut down this character, and probably one of the most overlooked ways, is just paying attention to your map. I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen people lose games because they're not looking at the map and seeing where the Viktor is. If you see a enemy minion wave coming towards you and you don't see the Viktor on map, that means the Viktor is probably around that minion wave and he's just waiting until you get into a fight or you're doing something on the other side of the map, then the Viktor can just push through because nobody was paying attention to the waves. So if you're able to get on top of wave management and keep pushing out the waves so that he can't push into you or he can't push into you without getting unnoticed, that is going to be your best friend. Understanding where the Viktor is going to be pathing, looking for faults in your own gameplay are the best ways. And like I stated before, it's not in your best interest to send a ton of people to deal with him. Maybe 2 people if he's super strong, or maybe 3, but you have to understand it's a push and pull. If you're going to send your teammates to try to deal with him, the rest of your team has to be doing something else, because with all the free time or all the time he's buying, the rest of the enemies are just going to be doing other things, other objectives, urns, pushing the other walkers, going for mid-boss, whatever the case may be. So trying to get on top of those waves are going to be your best friend. Now, I want to get on to our last section, and that's just talking about the bad design of this. So the bad design is essentially just building in bad habits. Because if you're playing Viktor, you're just running it down on repeat, not really learning anything or doing anything productively. You're just running it down, dying consistently, and just getting objectives. Now, yes, that is some sort of strategy, as you saw previously, and a lot of the time earlier in Deadlock with characters like McGinnis, who only built gun and just built walkers and just shredded them. Then you had Dash and Furnace as of recently, destroying walkers as well. Now you have WallBreaker Viktor. So from a game perspective, how do you just deal with this? Well, the most obvious change to do is that you have to destroy the base guardians before you can take one of the shrines. You don't have to destroy all of the base guardians, maybe the 2 in said lane to be able to access that shrine. Yes, it'll make the game a little bit harder, but I personally think this is the best way that they can deal with this, and that to future-proof it essentially. So that if they add another character or people figure out different builds for different characters, you won't have the same issue coming over and repeating over and over again. Now, the second thing that's stemming from this is that sometimes there is a Viktor player or a WallBreaker Viktor player that knows what they're doing. They know how to do it. They know how to manipulate the match. They know how to push. They know what to do, and they just get super ahead. Other times, people pick Viktor and they think they know what they're doing, and they go 0-12, and they just feed their ass off. And there's pretty much nothing the rest of your team can do because your Viktor's 0-12, while let's say a Yamato is 12-0 and she's super far ahead, and your game is essentially lost because it's just a whole snowball of other things. That's why it's just not a good thing, because you have people that don't know what they're doing, feeding the enemy because they think it's really strong. But inherently, with this character and the design of this WallBreaker is that you have to have some macro sense to get the full push and be able to capitalize on it. So understanding the limits is a big factor. So I understand why it's both infuriating to play against and why it's infuriating to play with, because you just run into the same issues and options. But like I said, hopefully by the time of this video getting uploaded, they might change this character or change the base guardians. But I think the biggest way to kind of deal with this is both by nerfing Viktor in some way, probably his gun damage, and the other way to future-proof it is to make the shrines invulnerable until the base guardians are destroyed, at least the 2 set of 1 lane. That will pretty much solve a lot of issues. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you found this video helpful, funny, whatever the case may be, definitely hit that sub button. Definitely like the video if you liked it. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.